All right, thanks for joining us today. This is Dennis, one of our awesome moderators on the admin team. Dennis is a self-described adventurer, risk taker, semi-retired, but not consciously. He's also a seeker or searcher, I guess you could say. You've also, I have to point this out because I thought it was interesting, you have formerly worked in law enforcement as well, right?
Yeah, I'm 20 years. I was a detective.
Okay, and then you've also done some contract work overseas as well.
I did in
So you've
Bos
traveled.
Bosnia, Kosovo, Eastern Europe, and then Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, so you're no stranger to other cultures and ways of doing things. That's pretty cool.
Mm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's the best education in the world is to travel with an
I
open
agree.
mind to other cultures.
Yeah.
Some, yeah, but you have to have a curious, open mind. Some people, and I notice this especially among Americans. Uh, that go with a closed mind. They don't want to let anything in. And these are American males by and large. I'm talking about the former police.
Okay.
Uh, and, some were the typical ugly American abroad, if you heard. You know what that is?
No, well, I think I do, but why don't you tell me?
Well, think of Donald Trump. That would be,
Oh no, you said it.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. The ugly American.
Okay.
There you go. Loud, boisterous, flaunt their money, pushy, uh,
Gotcha. Basic.
ignorant of other cultures. Uh, so many people in the world are bilingual, trilingual, but not us. Uh, I remember we were doing something, and it was for the United Nations, so you had countries represented there from all over the world, and you had to speak English to be in that mission. And there was this Indian fella that uh, he was using English. It was a second language. And then something happened, sort of, I don't know, there was some shooting or something, and he got a little excited and he talked in uh, Indian. And this American policeman with, on the radio we all used, and real loud, he said, "Speak American."
Oh
Oh,
no.
he didn't say speak English, speak American.
Very imperialist. Very. That's pretty
But
prideful.
not all, uh,
Yeah,
not all Americans are like that at all.
this is true. Oh, no, you're
Yeah,
not. I'm not. At least I
no,
try not to be.
no, you didn't go over there pushing the Peruvians around and
Yeah, I was pretty humbled. I thought there'd be people speaking English, and I really struggled to learn a language, and I struggled. So before I go back, I'll definitely be learning the language
yeah.
so I don't suffer.
Just what was my question?
Okay, so what is your personal philosophy in 20 words or less?
Mm, the secret to understanding people is to take a non-judgmental stance, to just see them as they are without trying to put them in a box, which is for your own. If we do that, that's for our own benefit. We
Oh,
want to categorize. We want to build structures. We want
yeah.
to put people in those. So non-judgment and to understand and accept that there is a great mystery out there, and we know the physics, and which is verifying what mystics have talked about for thousands of years, that the world is not as we perceive it, and that's very hard for most people to accept.
Yes. I think a lot of us want to know the answers and want everything to fit neatly, so that's a big one. And when things don't fit neatly, if it's different, well, then different must be bad. Or if we don't understand it, we take fear or offense.
And I think the challenge for everyone is to rediscover themselves, that life and our reactions to life can push us step by step, reaction by reaction, away from who we actually are. And that's where all the trouble starts. That's where all the mm, turmoil starts with yourself. But everyone has it in their power to, in their mind's eye, go back till they find the eyes of who they actually are. And once you find that, cling to it. Don't ever let anything separate you.
I would agree with that one.
Okay.
So for a mundane question, a lot of people were curious to know a bit more about the admins. So they want to know what foods do you like and what is your relationship to food? Like, do you see a body, mind, spirit connection? Like, how does that impact you?
I had oh, I had a lot of turmoil about eating meat. I have for several years, but I eat some meat now. And my stance on meat eating is that you should pay reverence to the animal. You should connect the chain of events that happen to that energy you're consuming. And I think it's a danger in this society that people lose connection between a Big Mac and a cow. You know what I mean? They eat chicken, is it McNuggets?
Yeah,
And they don't connect it with the chicken. I grew up on a farm. I know exactly where meat comes from. Killed animals. I've killed animals. It was part of life growing up. But you have to have a reverence for it. Be mindful of it. I've gone long periods where I didn't eat meat at all, but I just kept coming back to it. So I think with food, I would just have that to say, and that could go with anything, because everything's energy, and you need to pay it the proper respect and gratefulness that it's supplying you with energy. Until we learn to get energy out of the oxygen, out of the air, and let it permeate our skin, we have to consume, which seems like such a brutal way to get energy in our bodies, does it not? We put it in our mouths, we chew it up, we process it, it comes out. Uh, it just seems like such a primitive way to get energy. You
yeah.
ever think that?
Oh, yes. I think about it a lot. I mostly am plant-based myself, but I'm moving more and more towards less and less animal consumption. We don't do dairy at all, except for a little bit of butter. And as much as we can, we're continually moving towards more plant-based, which is more natural anyway, because whether you have a farm or you're a hunter-gatherer, you're not going to have animal products at every meal to the level that we consume them today. So no matter which side of the fence you're on, it's just not a natural or healthy way of eating, really.
So, do you eat meat at all?
I do. I eat some fish and some chicken. Um, I do. Yeah, it
And
helps.
have you made peace in your mind? Have you?
I have not made peace in my mind, but when I've tried to go completely off of it, I have struggled, and I've done a lot of research into this. And I think a big part of it's genetics and what your genetics are adapted to and your gut's adapted to. It takes years and years and years to develop to becoming an omnivore. So literally eating a steak, you can automatically absorb more magnesium than just suddenly making a switch to plant-based. So I think slow transitioning is the key to really do that. But also my personal thing is if I struggle to slaughter an animal myself, then I really need to think about that as far as what I'm consuming and how much I'm consuming because my my family also had a farm and I really struggled slaughtering the chickens. was very traumatic for me. So I do think about that, and
Yeah, you understand, as anyone that was raised on a farm, that you have chickens, you're a kid, you sort of get attached to the chickens, and then suddenly it's Sunday dinner time, and your mother's out there whacking the head off little Becky that you're eating it
yes,
3 hours later.
yes,
You know?
and no one told me that sometimes after you cut their heads off, they'll keep running, and it was very traumatic.
Yeah.
And the cow, we had a cow which we intended to butcher, but she was beautiful. She had sentient presence. She always knew what you were feeling. She was very emotionally in tune. And towards the end, nobody could do it. It was like, well, this is Daisy. We can't do it. And so she lived out a very healthy old age. And I think that's very telling. If we couldn't do it ourselves, then we shouldn't be consuming it all the time just because it's packaged by someone else. And
Someone posted, because I made a post about uh, to eat meat or not, and I forget who it was, but it was that there's a fable that the animals told humans that you may eat us only if you must eat us to survive, and uh, pay homage to us. You can have our energy uh, sparingly, but don't remember where it came from. And to me, that's where prayers come in. Grace, over the meal, I think should be focused on what you're going to eat. Seriously focused on it. And give
yeah,
Thanksgiving to okra and bean sprouts and everything you're going to eat, and the chicken. And really let that soak in. That you owe these animals and you owe these plants something. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, it should be a reciprocal appreciation. I agree. Um, a movement. Tell me about, are you active? Do you move? And how do you notice the impact of it on your body, doing it or not doing it?
What did I notice about motion? My
Yeah,
motion?
exercise, being active, like versus being sedentary.
Oh, it's much better to be active. Uh, I walk or saunter, I would say, more than walk. I saunter around. I think. I look around. It's a little difficult here because it's so humid and hot right now. But I do it some, even in
Gotcha.
the hottest weather. And so emotion is very important. I'm 60 years old, so you have to stay in motion, or you rust up like a car or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me, what types of music do you like, or what sorts of creative pursuits or interests do you have, or that you're drawn to?
Johnny Cash. I like. I tend to listen to the same music. I have some CDs in our car, and it's Johnny Cash and Levon Helm. Have you heard of Levon Helm? You know who the band is? Mm, that
I
was
don't I don't think
70s.
so.
70s. Anyway, he's from Arkansas originally. The band is very famous. You may have heard the songs. And night they drove old Dixie down. Listen to it sometime. The band.
All right.
They were originally Bob Dylan's band.
All right. Have you ever had experiences with racism or sexism or something along those lines of an ism, and how has it impacted your life, or how do you feel about it?
Oh, I think it's ridiculous. And growing up, no, yeah, there was lots of racism because I grew up in the South. In Arkansas is the South, but not really. It's not the deep South. It's not Alabama, Mississippi. And in the part area I grew up in, it's hills. It's not Delta. Now there is a Delta uh, area in Arkansas that touches Louisiana, Mississippi. So no Delta, no need for slaves back in the day. And growing up, there were no black people anywhere in the area I grew up in, but there was great prejudice against them. And I heard that all my life growing up. And it stemmed from the Civil War. And I can't tell you the culture. Have you been to the Deep South? Well, they're
No.
great people, but they're really deep in their culture. If you go in, Mississippi, Georgia, the Old South, they really feel the separation in the effects of the Civil War still to this day. It's hard to believe, but they
Wow.
do. But yeah, when I grew up, I heard, I'm not going to say, how everyone referred to black people. And it was just accepted, and everyone talked like that. So you didn't know it was wrong or anything. And then I left there and went to Little Rock when I was 17 or 18. And got out, and then I went around traveling the United States and started to break out of that culture at a very young age. I always tried to break out because I always read and was interested in anything from the moment my grandmother, I was 4 years old, told me that God lived forever and introduced the idea of infinity into my 4-year-old brain. From that moment on, I pondered infinity. I thought about it after she said it for a long time, trying to comprehend it in my mind. It's impossible. We can understand infinity only in symbols, circles, or infinity symbol, and so forth. But to actually intellectually completely understand it, we can't do it. We can't grasp it. Can you? Can you grasp infinity in your mind? Yeah.
Not really. Just
This,
fragments and pieces that it's a very difficult concept.
yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
People have gotten mad trying to get that wrapped around their brain.
Oh yeah.
So we just go to symbols, and maybe that's it. Circles and so forth.
Whatever helps bring understanding. You mentioned reading a lot. Um, what are some of your what's maybe like on your top 2 or 3 books you would recommend to someone? Is like you got to read this book.
Man, I haven't read a book in so long. I read everything on the internet.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird. We all read. I remember that one. Did you read To Kill a Mockingbird?
That was a good one. A hard read. It's good.
And then I tried at some point to read Dianetics. And I think I did finish that.
Oh wow.
Stephen Hawking wrote a book. God, the name of it, like the layman's guide to the universe or to physics. And I did read that book.
Oh, okay.
It sticks out in my mind. I read a lot of books I just can't remember.
Yeah, that's okay.
You know,
How about emotions? I know astrologically speaking, you're a water sign, and water signs are known to have a lot of emotions, but how do you integrate them to be your authentic self, even when you've got this tsunami of emotion going on?
hmm, authentic self. I'm a very probing person. What motivates me in life is mysteries and investigations. And so everything I do or relate to people is through that lens. I don't have any interest in superficial conversations. They're a waste of time. And I usually, if it's prolonged contact with someone, I don't allow them to do that because I'm interested in them, intensely interested in people. And all people are interesting, even the boring ones. They just don't know it, because here they are in my life, this person. We come from, we don't even know. Darwinism may be part of it. We don't know. We don't know why we're here, how we got here. Humans don't know a damn thing. We don't know why we're here. It's crazy.
Lots of
And so,
theories.
yeah, theories. You can look at this one, that one. It's wonderful because there's always something to do in life. But I like to help people. I like to help them heal. But you got to dig in there. Sometimes they resist, but you got to dig. You got to find that. Um, got to find that thing that they reacted to that started forming their personality. Everybody, and you can try this trick because it works. It's true. Everybody has 5 or 6 things that they remember their whole life, and it don't have to be a big thing. It can be you spilt the milk and your mother said, "You idiot," or it can be that you spilt the milk and your mother said, "That's okay, it's all right," or some random person that said something to you. The thing is, while it may not be important just to look at on the surface, if it was important to you, then it's important. And how you know it was important to you because you remember it, you know. And so everyone should examine those things, and they can figure them out easily. It'll be 6 or 7 things.
Well, that's a good way to do it. Find out what triggers you and what things recall to mind those strong emotions. You understand how you work.
Now, I don't know if I've told this story. I think I have. Um, I think maybe in the group I wrote a little thing about it, maybe not. When I was 8 years old, my brother shot me, and he says accidentally.
Wow, it's quite the accident.
It was accident. Well, they gave us guns, and we were 7 or 8 years old. What do you expect? So he shot me, and I almost died. I was in the hospital 6 weeks. And the doctor told my sister that they lost me or almost. Well, anyway, so ever since I woke up in that hospital after that surgery and everything, I had this memory. And the memory is that I was in a place where there was this council of elders, we'll call them. They were older men dressed in white, and they had a problem. I could tell, they were concerned about something they were talking about. And what I got from it is they were trying to alter someone's life, that they were mapping it out through algorithms or whatever, and that this is not going to turn out well for this person. Or it might have been 2 or 3 people. And I knew they needed someone to go do this task. And I told, well, it seemed like the leader, I said, I'll do it. I'll go do it. And I remember this is vivid. He said, now, Dennis, this is going to be harder than you seem to think it is. And I said, well, I want to do that. And there was a girl there, a little girl my age, and she was like my buddy. We talked about it, and she told me that I should go. I should go do it. And so that's kind of all I remember about that. Yeah, and I thought that maybe I was, it was the doctors that I had a dream about, because that could have fit in white, uh, illuminated atmosphere in there. It was a nice place. I liked it. I remember this feeling of understanding there, and that maybe like your home, maybe like you belong there. That I would have had no problem staying there. But anyway, so it could have been a near-death experience. It could have been something to do with those doctors. I could have woke up under anesthesia. I don't know. But I do know that things they were saying, like adjustment, and were not words I even heard growing up in my family. I don't know if anyone in my family said adjustment. These were people from the country that didn't talk about, they didn't know about adjustment. So I do know that it's stuck with me my whole life. I'm 60 years old, and it's just as real as it was when I was 8 years old. So I don't know what that was. People can hear the story and they can make up their own minds.
Has that impacted any of your thoughts or feelings on death?
Yes. Yes, it has. We're sure that there's any, like us, most religions, that there's some sort of judgment. I didn't get that feeling at all, that there's any judging going on. There was just not wanting you to make mistakes. Just not wanting you to do that because it's bad for you. And they were trying to help with that. So
concern as opposed to condemnation,
then. Exactly. Like you would with your child. You want your child to not make that mistake, but you want to condemn them for it, or make them feel like they're a bad person. And then later on in life, I have a cursory knowledge of physics and some of the concepts I can understand. And that's made me really understand that everything is energy, because that that's proven, and it's been used in practical ways for the internet. We recently had a ship in Mars, and one landed somewhere. Where did the other one land? Somewhere.
yeah.
And that's all with the same physics that tells us that everything is vibrating energy, and there's no explanation. We understand the micro and the macro worlds, but we don't understand when they change from one to the other. And we sure don't understand why we see reality as we see it. And I know that there's different little examples you might see on the internet of how easily we fall for illusion, visual illusion and so forth. So it's just it's a delicious mystery as to why we see life as we see it. How could anybody ever be bored with that going on?
I don't know. Certainly not me.
Mhm.
Well, you've already answered a couple of my questions that I was going to ask you about how you connect to others and what drives you and that type of thing. In regards to that experience you have, did you ever figure out what it was that you thought you might have come back to help with or do, or is that still kind of a question? Or
I don't think you can know the task. I don't think it works if you know it. I have that distinct feeling that
fair
uh,
enough.
yeah, you don't know. It's kind of like you wake up, you had this dream, and you remember it, but then in a second you don't remember it. You know, something like that.
That makes sense.
But the
Um,
visit, I remember. Still,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. Um, in regards to, is there a time that you've just really struggled or maybe had a really dark night of soul? And if so, how did you overcome it? Because we all have our thing.
Lord, yes. Ah, yes. Up and down, up and down. Uh, I had a change. I don't know. It's like 2012, somewhere in there. I had a lot of turmoil in my uh, youth and trauma. Uh, my dad died in the house when I was 5. And my mother was killed in a car crash when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and no one knew how to talk to you about things like that. People just didn't anything physical, emotional was just all something to be overcome because life was a struggle. So you grow up in that, and I was always a very sensitive, inquisitive kid, and there was I had one aunt that helped me, but kind of got me, but nobody else. Well, anyway, I'm getting off subject. In 2012 or so, I was living alone, and uh, I've seen a lot of violence in my life, in my work. And so that sort of had built up, and it's keeping me. It was driving me crazy.
What do you mean
And
by driving you crazy? How was it affecting you?
well, it was all flashing back. I guess it's like post-traumatic stress disorder. Faces, uh, bodies, all of that. And then I walked. I was sauntering, and I sauntered and sauntered and sauntered. And in my mind, I went back. I concentrated on going back to the Big Bang, to travel back to that singular uh, explosion that sent pieces flying everywhere. At least that's what we think. And realized that in me was a tiny, 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 tiny particle of eternity. And I think it's in everyone. And that I could always find that little speck of eternity that came from billions of years ago that somehow may be the essence of who I am. And I could cling to that, and it had a healing power. It radiated forgiveness. It radiated conscious healing. It brought me together. Because, when we fall apart, the wave particle duality, we sort of bring matter together to create. And then if we fall apart, it's literally we're falling apart. We're just getting in the wave. We can be washed away. But you can always bring yourself, or I could, because I can always go back to that little bit of stardust that's floated through all the eons and all the billions of space distance, and it is part of me. And I believe that with all my heart.
It sounds like when the immediate or the flashbacks were just getting really overwhelming, you were able to really zoom out to what's the big, big, big picture going on here, and
Exactly.
the
And then bring it back
totality of
together.
everything.
Yeah, and bring it back together.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Because violence, everything radiates energy. And if you're in chaos and extreme energies of fear and destruction, and so you come to those, and all those energies are there. Yeah, you soak them up. You know what I mean? They're still there. All the EMTs and cops and soldiers, they're getting permeated with all those energies. That's what I think.
I think there's a stereotype of those types of professions that people think that they're just some sort of robotic, uncaring person. It sounds like you're saying no, and that it was greatly affecting you. You weren't
Yeah, later.
unaffected, but later, okay, accumulated. All right, makes sense.
You have to stay calm, in the chaos. That's your function there. You have to bring some kind of order when.
But you weren't unaffected by it, is what I'm saying. It deeply affected you more than you realized. It kind of just hit you later.
Right, right. And it would, I think, affect everyone. Maybe some people are more susceptible to it than others. Maybe some people are more sensitive. Maybe they're more expansive. Um, I don't know. I don't know how other people are, but I worked around cops all my life, and yeah, it affects them. Maybe they don't act like it, but I know it does. And I talked to many, many cops about things that they experienced that were really bothering. Because you have to hold it together while you're there. What's going on?
So there's a lot in the news right now going on about police brutality, and there's the pro cops and the anti cops. There's a lot of emotional rhetoric and hyperbole going on. What's one thing you feel could really help the situation, that could really help our law enforcement?
Different training. They're trained, and that has started some. When I started during my tenure, it was common sense. You use your common sense, and they're trained more militaristic now, and they're trained. You stay in that car, that squad. You get out, and all these people are the enemy, and they're too quick um, to accelerate force. And I'll tell you what, Dan, you either have the eye for people. I mean, I could look at somebody and I know if they're in trouble or not in an instant. And some people don't have that. And a lot of people that are cops should not be cops, period. If they don't have the interpersonal skills or the perception uh, to read people, then they got no business in that job carrying a gun with that power that police have over people. surely I met many really good cops, but I met a lot of incompetent school monitor mentality cops, and that's the problem, you know. And the training needs to not emphasize so much the survival and the when to shoot, when not to shoot, and they just drill it in them to the where they don't even think, you know. It's just this step happens, you do this step, and you're dealing with people after all. And uh, go ahead.
That sounds like a perfect storm because I know for myself, having been in traumatic incidents, whether it was happening to me or around me, when you're talking about those energies and energies they have to deal with all day on a regular basis, it does affect you. And if you are not being given mindful training on emotions and trauma and psychology and how to deal with people and perceive people, as you pointed out, combined with that militarized training, I can see where even myself, being a very sensitive, empathic person, when I'm in that fight or flight constantly and is absorbing these energies constantly, at a certain point, it just seems like a perfect storm for what we already see manifesting and happening, where there's too much violence. And so, yeah, it sounds like they need different kinds of training, more of it to really help the situation.
They do, and they need to weed out these people that, and I don't know how you would determine this, but that don't have the ability to read another person,
Or
and
that are maybe
that,
just too much about the control and power, maybe certain personality types that tend to go into that.
yeah, I like getting into it for adventure. I mean, that's why I got into it. But then I was quickly made a detective, and it switched to human behavior that interests me. But yeah, they need to go back to community policing, get to know the people, and understand that if you're from the suburbs, you're white, you're from the suburbs, and you go to the inner city uh, where people are poor and they had to hustle more. Maybe they're going to act a little more aggressive, but it don't really mean anything, you know. And that's with anybody. If you're in an urban area that's poor, so there's a lot of people hustling around. Yeah, you have to be a little bit more aggressive than if you live out in the burbs somewhere. So they have to understand that and understand that it don't really mean that much, you know, and be able to read aggression, read what someone's going to do before they do it. And you'd be surprised how far you get if you just treat people with some respect, you know, sort of like you want to be treated until they give you a reason not to. Treat them like a reasonable person. And man, all these um, police killings in cars. They're just walking up there. You can tell. I watched some of the videos. The police, they're nervous. The cops are nervous. They're trigger happy. They're scared. Uh,
Fear.
and if you're gonna be scared all the time, you know, get in the line of work because you got to be able to overcome that. You do. If you're going to do a dangerous job, you got to get your mind right, and you can't be Barney Fife-ish, you know, all the time,
Yeah,
scared, you know. No, because they feed on your fear, then they're scared, and then the whole thing goes out, uh, gets out of control.
that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your perspective on that. In terms of the more spiritual side of things, do you have a certain label, or if someone said, "What is your faith or your spirituality?" Is there something you would sum up in a sentence to explain it?
No, not really.
Searcher, seeker,
Seeker, investigator, uh, believer in something, the other side of the veil. No, but don't have any idea what it is. So I'm yeah, I'm a constant investigator. You know, Einstein said he thought of God as a gardener, and he was constantly trying to catch him at his work. And so that's sort of what I do, with an open mind, knowing that I don't know anything. That all I maybe can do is every once in a while ask a good question and follow a trail of evidence, and maybe really think I'm on the right track, but always know that, you know, if it leads somewhere else, just throw that away. Say I was wrong about that, but I'm still going on the search. So I have no beliefs. I have no beliefs about, with any surety, about uh, the unseen world, other than there's something there.
And you're okay with the unknown. That's cool. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are too afraid of the unknown. They have to fit things into neat black and white answers to feel better about not knowing.
Well, and maybe the not knowing, to understand something, we have to. It has to make the intellectual, connect the intellectual circuits of logic in our human minds, and we can say, and I guess believe, that, you know, trying to think of examples.
Oh, I think I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean, and
Yeah, yeah.
but it's all opinion, and it's opinion based on what? And people just need to come off of it, you know, and say, hey, maybe this is it. But when they start getting dead serious, dead set in their beliefs, then they stop. And it stops. I don't understand it. I guess it's comforting. Hey, it's hard for people to live with the idea of the unknowable, you know?
Yeah. I think the known is always more comfortable. I think even Tony Robbins said certainty is something that all humans have a trait of searching for certainty. Speaking of jump tracks here, you're talking about beliefs and opinions and things conflicting. Are there things that trigger you in general, or posts or subtopics in the group that might trigger you, and how do you deal with your personal triggers?
Bullying, I won't tolerate. I won't tolerate someone in any setting that I think is bullying someone else. Maybe I've seen it in a group or something, but I'll usually jump in, and if they're targeting someone who I think they're bullying, then I'll jump in and make myself the target, because I have no patience for bullies or erudite know-it-alls. You know, I'm
I have
talking
all
about
the answers, and your
and
answer
declare
is wrong.
yeah, everything's declarative. And no one knows a damn thing. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Is there anything a member wanted to know? What draws you to respond to certain posts or insights in the group? And is it just interacting with other people? Is it observing others learn or fail? Is it what is it for you that draws you to certain things?
Well, it'd be something that sparked my interest. That their post uh, I found interesting. Then I would say something, try to add or ask a question. That's it.
Fair enough. Is there something that you do now in your life or that you can trace back to when you were a child that just really makes you lose track of time?
Where I can go in my consciousness and totally zone out. I can go. I was probably 4 years old, and I was in a field of grass, and it was my birthday. My birthday is November. So it's sort of cold, and it felt good to be in that grass, which is sort of blocking the wind. It was low to the ground, and they were calling me uh, to my birthday, and I wouldn't come. I was just watching.
Oh, you were
Just,
happy.
yeah, I was just messing with them.
Oh,
I was. I
so
was really
you say you like
diabolical.
messing with people still?
No, but I really surprised myself when I look back on the child that I was in the things. It was a weird. I look at little kids that age, and I don't think they were thinking the things I thought, or the angles, or how to do manipulate adults if I wanted to. So I was just messing with them, but I remember coming out of the house, calling for me, and I let 4 or 5 because I could tell that they were about to start to come looking. They were getting nervous, and I popped up there. I can't hear you.
Weird, my mic built out. It sounds
Oh,
like it sounds like it ties into your fascination with human behavior and what makes people tick, and that kind of carried on into your adult life. So that
exactly,
makes sense. That makes sense. Um,
exactly.
what are your thoughts on happiness?
Mm. I don't know about the word happiness. I think a word I would use is peace of mind, where you're not tormented by any damn thing for just a little while, where you have peace of mind.
That's an interesting way of describing it.
Yeah, where nothing's moving around up there. You're just kind of happy. You're just kind of in your peace of mind.
Is happiness something that you encounter, or is it something that you have to decide to attain, or that you create? Like, if someone said, "How can I be happy?" Like, what does it mean for you to get to that state of peace of mind?
But you generate your own fire. You can't go around looking to suck energy out of other people. Um, you decide if you're going to be uh, interested, an interested, engaged person. And the best way to do that is get one gets their mind off their self, and gets interested in other people who are fascinated, or just what we've been talking about, fascinating subjects. The most miserable people are the people that can't stop thinking about themselves. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Because they're just thinking about, I'm unhappy about this is bad, because they're just so inwardly focused on themselves. They're missing all the stuff going on around them. I would also say gratitude. Lack of gratitude plays a big part in that mentality.
Oh, you're exactly right. You have to be grateful in life. Be grateful you're alive. Be grateful for the great things that humans do. Be grateful for the doctors that dedicated some of their lives, to learn medicine. Be grateful for that checkout lady at the grocery store that's always there bagging those groceries, and she gets damn tired of it. Be
Or,
grateful for your car.
yeah. Or as you pointed out, when you've traveled to other areas, like, I'm grateful for running water and electricity. And even though many people may not agree on whether it's a good idea to have law enforcement or certain emergency services, I'm grateful that I could call, and within a reasonable amount of time, somebody is going to come if something happens, as opposed to other places I've been where there is no one to call. That is not an option on the table.
And I've been there. And when someone's hurt, they pick them up and throw them in a car, and maybe take them somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah, unless
yeah.
you're out in the mountains. Yeah.
People and you hear it a lot. That's about anarchy and chaos is the answer. They have no idea. They have no idea what happens when there's chaos and there's a power vacuum. Because I can guarantee you somebody's going to fight. They're going to kill for that power. It can happen here. Happens all the time in other countries. It's not a beautiful thing. It's a violent, ugly thing when there's a power vacuum. Governments fail. I've been to countries where the government collapsed. So it's just a mad scramble to fill that vacuum.
It sounds like you're saying in this utopian ideal that when someone isn't in that position of authority, the wrong people are always going to step up to grab it, basically, if it's not there.
It's a story of humanity through the ages is the drive for one human to have power over another. And the fact um, is, as the world is now, you have to have, and we're saying, you have to have the threat of violence to curtail violence because there are factions and there are people that if there was no threat of violence, then they would take the power, you know. So that's just the fact of the life we live in now. And that may change somewhere down the line, but right now, that's how it is. There's still too many humans that want power over other people.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah,
I know in the group, one of the things we talk about is how to change a lot of these dynamics going on. So we talk about impacting the world and changing the world. Like, what are your thoughts on that, and where do you fit in that personally? Like, how do you feel we can actually make an impact or change in the world? What does that look like?
with the advent of the internet, and now increasingly, in Afghanistan, even they started to have internet cafes and so forth. And so you think about that, how that connects for the first time in what we know is of world history, anyway. Um, Thoughts are instantaneously connected. You can write something on the internet, and someone in Peru in an internet cafe you can read your thoughts, and they can offer you their thoughts. And it's a little bit like a string theory, the physics string theory, where everything's connected. And so it's sort of like the internet's a manifestation of that. The little tentacles going all out, little wires connecting everyone everywhere. And it's a way, really, that our consciousness is connected as as a whole, as humanity, for the first time in human existence that we know of. We're connected that way, where we can all be like uh, one mind, that we all have access to that information. What is it? The Akashic records? Is that what they call it? I'm not pronouncing
Oh,
it
yeah,
right.
I've heard some people call it that. Yeah.
Where
Like,
there is this information uh, that we can tap into. Familiar?
yeah.
Have you ever heard of Roger Primrose, the mathematician? Uh, he was instrumental in something with Stephen Hawking about orbits around the planet, something that I don't understand. But he said that he came up with this elegant equation so they were able to do something. And he said that that equation did not come from him, that he tapped into that there's an information bank somewhere, and somehow he tapped into that and he got that information.
That's interesting. Well, I can definitely see some of what you've described happening in the group with people from so many different countries discussing things and, oh, I thought this, no, this, and even just simple misconceptions of what things are really like. It's interesting to be able to talk to people and
So, a melding.
exchange thoughts and ideas rather
Uh,
than it's just this nebulous country somewhere else that you're probably never going to be able to visit or communicate with. When we didn't have the internet, and that wasn't possible. So it was just something a blurb you read in a textbook or an encyclopedia somewhere. That was about it, and or the news, whatever they've decided to put out. And of course, they always had their own biased narrative. So yeah, and I like what you said about that.
well, there's no reason to be. That's willful ignorance. If someone doesn't explore uh, the access they have to so many human beings on this earth, that you can talk to and hear what they think about something. It's infinitely interesting, and I don't understand why some people they don't matter. They don't care.
I think it goes back to what you said. Are they focused on themselves, or are they focused on what's going on around them, being present and thinking of the bigger picture and looking beyond
Pro-
their own perception?
Probably happy in their little cultural bubble that people tend to feel.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time today. And I really appreciate all the energy you bring to the groups. Your posts are not easy posts, but they're good posts. And by that, I mean some people post something and within seconds, I already know my thoughts on it and I'm able to communicate it quite well. And then along comes a Dennis post, and I'm like, I had to think about this for like a couple hours before I get back to you because you ask really good questions and they're not simple surface questions. It's like the huh. Hmm. So I really appreciate all the things that you do and the interactions you bring to the community. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Deanne.
Yeah.
And I want you to post more little songs
Oh
because you
man,
have a wonderful singing voice. Now, was that hard for you
that was very
to do?
hard for me. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But I was in this mode of, okay, what are my fears and what can I do to overcome them and desensitize myself? And social media is a low barrier because I don't have to actually go sing live in front of a crowd. So if I really don't like what people are saying, I can just bloop, shut it off or delete it. So that's kind of a slightly easier way out. So I did it and I felt good afterward. Yeah.
And you and I are still working, on our thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what it is?
Oh yeah, for sure. And before we leave, is there anything that you would like to say to the group, to the community at large? Any parting words?
Well, I want to say to you to keep the rat bastard thing going
Yes, we
because it's
must bring
coming
that
back.
back. We must bring it
Yeah,
back into the lexicon. Yes.
yeah, and it's just coming little by little. And to the group, just dig deep, dig deep. There are no stupid questions.
I agree.
Ask it or put it out there. And really, all you can do is question. All you can do is try to ask a good question, and never feel like it's a stupid question. Just put it out there and see if you can get some answers. Be honest about your own curiosity. Don't be afraid of appearing crazy.
That's a
You know,
good one.
yeah. Just go deep. Ask that thing that you hadn't asked anyone, and that'll be the really interesting thing that needs to be discussed.
Oh, yeah. All
All
right.
right.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to close it down now, but I look forward to talking more with you in the group and
All right,
elsewhere.
Aaron.
All
Deanne,
right.
you have a good day. Enjoy the barbecue.
I will. You take care. Bye, Dennis.
Okay. Bye bye.